is hard to imagine a more fitting Shabbat for welcoming a new baby into the covenant of the Jewish people than tonight. This week we read Parshat Lech in the book of Genesis, the pivotal moment of our ancient history where God calls Abraham to enter into the covenant that has been passed down to us from generation to generation until this very moment. We read the words. God said to Abram, "Go forth from your native land, from your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, and all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you." Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. These few verses set up the scene of an absolutely transformational moment for the Jewish people, but also for humankind, establishing Abram as the ancient forefather of the Jewish people, a legacy that we have treasured and held close for all the generations since, a legacy that we bestow upon our children today and the generations to come. But what are some of the enduring lessons that we learn from Abram's covenant and his journey forward that inspire and inform and enrich our lives as a people? In the call to Abram, God asks him to leave behind three significant parts of his former life and identity. He's told to leave Artzacha, your land, Moladetcha, the land of your birth, and also Beit Avicha, the house of your father. In order to begin to start his new identity centered around a new belief system, Abraham had to leave everything behind. All of the spiritual and emotional bonds he had created up until that point in his life, and at the advanced age of 75 years old. Let us imagine for a moment the leap of faith and the courage that was required of Abram. He had no concrete understanding of where he was going. He simply followed the promise of God's blessing, a nebulous promise at best, to the land that I will show you. Aside from his wife Sarai and his nephew Lot, he embarked on this treacherous road alone in the world, far away from all he had known. If we put ourselves in Abram's shoes, we can understand the vulnerability he must have felt at this moment of transformation, the fear, the insecurity of not knowing what might come next. And yet, he moves forward, facing challenge after challenge with faith and hope in the blessings to come. Throughout Jewish tradition, we refer back to Abram's time of wandering as a point of pride and collective consciousness. We say the words, "My father was a wandering Aramean." We show connection to these humble beginnings and remind ourselves of the faith we must cultivate to move through our own periods of wandering. It seems that we find ourselves once again poised in a transformational moment of history. Jewish life in America has always offered us unprecedented freedoms. This was the golden land to our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, those who came to live here as proud Jews and proud Americans. Recently, we've seen a historic rise in anti-Semitism, fueled by celebrities and politicians who stoke fear and promote conspiracy theories, and internet and social media that goes largely unchecked, supporting the largest propaganda platform that the world has ever known. In modern-day America, anti-Semitism is the last acceptable expression of discrimination. From the extremes of the political right and left, Jews are at the same time an unwelcome minority and an oppressor. We hear a perverse justification for anti-Semitism, couched in morality, conspiracies about Jewish control and delegitimization of Israel. Like Abram, we may feel alone, lost in our own vulnerability. But, like Abraham, we must gather ourselves to meet this challenge with courage and audacity, with faith and hope for the future. The ancient covenant required Abram's action, his tenacity, and the devotion of his heart. And so too, this moment of history demands no less of us. And we can begin now. We can begin now by calling on our neighbors, our family, and our friends, public figures and elected leaders, and all people of conscience to stand up and stand with us, just as they stand for others and proudly champion marginalized minorities. We ask them to stand up for us and to say out loud that anti-Semitism is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. As Americans, voting is our sacred privilege, an obligation of our democracy, and we must vote. And when we do, we must make sure that our votes are cast for leaders who represent values of equality, respect, and justice, who unequivocally denounce all forms of discrimination and hatred, who reject disinformation, and who protect the vulnerable and the marginalized. As we raise our children, the next generation, descendants of our ancestor Abram, let us encourage them to be proud and to embrace their place in the chain of Jewish civilization, even when we face adversity or even when the road ahead is unclear. Ours is a legacy that is fundamentally good and enduring, rich with history and values that continue to bring innumerable gifts to the world. Let us not live in fear, but with hope, purpose, and faith in a future of great blessing. Shabbat Shalom.